All right, so we're up to I can't even. Are we up to the fourth or fifth arc now? We're up to Baratie, which generally I liked. I've got like sort of an appreciation for how the arc sort of steps up the story's intensity. We're getting some more character development. We're getting some of that. You know, whenever they do like the characters' backstories, it always has like really. I think they're always really well done, with the exception of the, you know, that we saw one in Serp Village. But let's not just like keep dunking on Serp Village every single video. Introduction of Sanji, like the Straw Hats cook, while also again diving into those kind of like big themes that you have throughout the show. So you got like the loyalty stuff, you got the sacrifice, you've got the real agency the characters have with their personal choice and their personal dreams, which I really like Sanji's, and I really like his backstory, and I really like how he is on the restaurant ship and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. You know, Sanji as he's introduced right here. I mean, we'll end up talking about more Sanji in the future, right? But generally, like the way they do sort of like his backstory, his like, should we say, chivalry is not so intense at this point, so it's kind of enjoyable and goofy. His passion for cooking is like loyalty to those in need. It makes him like a fascinating character from like the get-go, and you know, he doesn't want to be a waiter, he wants to cook. He's like actively, you know, defying, you know, orders or whatever to allow himself to fulfill his dream. And that relationship that he has with, you know, Zeph, the former pirate cook that, you know, he's served with his entire life, who saved Sanji's life and raised him his own. When we get like those sort of that backstory and all the stuff between him and Zeph, it is some of the like and I'm like a sucker for whenever they do sort of like father or son stuff anyway, but that is like definitely, I think up to this point, I think that is the most powerful and emotional stuff that we get so far, which is only really going to be topped by, you know, the Nami stuff, which we're gonna see soon in the next arc, you know. But all that stuff with like young Sanji and Zeph stranded with like barely any food, Zeph sacrificing his own leg and rations to keep Sanji alive. It's really, really powerful. It's really, really impactful. I like how that moment basically shapes Sanji's like entire worldview and his determination that nobody ever goes hungry. So it's not even just about him like trying to be like this great chef and, you know, taking on this dream of find like the all blue of all the greatest ingredients. He's like, it's his dream of just like, he doesn't want people to be hungry and he wants people to be eating good. I really like it, and I really like Zeph. I really like Zeph. You know, his kind of, because obviously he's like a half of that, and you know that kind of like that gruff, sort of like, you know, tough relationship he has on Sanji, like tough love and whatever. But it's still being like based in sort of like selflessness. It really shines through. I find it really touching, and you know, the all blue thing comes from him, right? His dream of finding the all blue, this legendary like sea where there's like an intersection where all the ingredients over the world like mix and like meet in one place. You can like acquire anything in one place and have like, you know, the greatest restaurant or the greatest sort of food resource ever. I think it's really cool, and it matches with the stuff that we saw, because we also in like the lead of going into this arc, we start seeing like Zoro backstory as well, and how his like dreams passed to him. You know, obviously Luffy, you've got this lineage of the red hair Shanks passed to him, and I like that sort of like generational, you know, passing down hopes, next generation. I don't know. I think that when they do that well, it's some of the best written, like most beautifully written bonds that they have in kind of One Piece. And it's showing that like family isn't always necessarily sort of blood related or whatever. That said, that said, like that stuff, like I think Sanji's introduction's sick. I think the concept of the restaurant ship is sick. I think all the stuff with Zeph and the backstory is sick. The problem here is Don Krieg. Don Krieg is now I don't know if I'm gonna put him in. Is he called Kudo? Whatever he was called, the Serb village dude. I don't know if I'm gonna put him that low, but he's still ass and he's still one dimensional. At least what this dude is doing like makes sense, but it's just so one dimensional, and he lacks the charisma. The like Buggy's the standard right now, and that standard is met and exceeded by like future, you know, antagonists and like villains that we meet along the story. And like Don Krieg is just like so like he doesn't have that charisma. He doesn't have that like, you know, he's okay, sure, he's ruthless, he's power hungry and whatever, and you know he's got this like arsenal of weaponry, but it just leads to like a thing for like, you know, Luffy to like fight. He doesn't challenge the crew in any interesting way beyond sort of like here's a physical threat for them to fight and use their superpowers on. You know, he's not actually challenging anything about like their worldview or who they are, or he's like a mirror image to any of them, or, you know, an alternative path that any of them could. Do you know what I mean? He's not like offering anything. It's just really just like fights to give a tough fight, so they got to rely on teamwork. Like that's kind of it, you know, to just kind of provide like. I understand the purpose. It's just like, okay, so we get some intense fights where we get each of the Storecraft crew members at this point like a time to shine. But yeah, I don't know. Don Krieg's ass. I think the decision to like remove him in the live action was like a cheer that I had. I was like, oh great, we don't have to deal with Don Krieg. I don't know, but there's a lot of good stuff in this, but that like the fact that like the main villain does like suck is like, it is a big deal. It is like something that does need to be sort of addressed there, because that is something of like kind of, you know, a large significance. Yeah, so the climactic battle between Luffy and Don Krieg, it honestly kind of does nothing for me. It emphasizes like Luffy's like resilience and dedication, but I've been getting that already in other places, right? It's like, oh, he's not backing down due to like the dirty tactics, and it's like, I kind of know that's Luffy at this point, so that wasn't satisfying for me. The stuff that I did like was, you know, as I'm saying, like I think Sanji, the stuff that surrounds Sanji is really well done. And, you know, the backstory with Zeph, his decision to finally leave the Baratie and join the crew, the emotional farewell between Sanji and Zeph, I think that's really beautiful. Trying to hold back the tears as they say goodbye, like this dude who raised him. I think it's moving, I think it's bittersweet. Sorry, my like throat at the moment, I don't know. It highlights kind of like the sacrifice, you know, it solidifies what Sanji is about. So I like that. So I think all the stuff that was like... I still think this is one of the weakest arcs. I do think this is one of the weakest arcs. And I do think it's a failure of the villain and the threat of what's actually happening at like the time. Right? But I think that like all the stuff that surrounds Sanji is like really, really cool. You remove the Don Krieg of it. I mean, I like the stuff with like Hawkeye and Zoro. I mean, that's exciting, you know, that's cool, and that's like, oh whoa, there's like these real sort of like big threats out there who would later sort of like establish him as a warlord and all this sort of thing. But yeah, I think just like the plot that's driving the story is bad, but I think that the like emotional character stuff is really, really, really good. Like the Sanji's pulled into the crew really, really well. The stuff with Zeph is really, really powerful. And I'd also say on top of that like at this point for me, the crew's complete.
Like, for this point, for me, the crew's complete. Now, we will talk about my favorite Straw Hat members and stuff like that as kind of these go on. Or maybe they'll become, like, different videos or whatever. But honestly, if the rest of the show sort of just remained Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji, and then you have, like, rotating cast of characters around them, honestly, I think that's the dynamics that can exist between those five is like enough and satisfying and exciting and compelling, and then you add in other people that are rotating around. I think that like that core five, and I think this kind of like era of these core five that carries on for just like a little bit. I think there's something kind of really special in that. And not to say that I don't like the other Straw Hats, which we're going to talk about as they get introduced along the way. Although that said, there are some I don't like. A few of them I can sort of like take them or leave them. And although they like have like cool aspects and they've got cool introductions and they've got like some of them have got like, you know, even like emotional backstories that surpass what we had with Sanji here with Zeph. It gets cluttered and it gets muddled, and there's so many characters and so many interactions that the pacing of them all getting to do something becomes a little bit murky. But that's kind of me forward projecting. As for the right here, right now, I think that team of five that we got here is pretty cool, and I think they're different enough, and they've got different enough goals and all that sort of thing to just make them very compelling as just sort of like an outfit that's going out to sea. We got drums outside. I don't know if you can hear those. But yeah, tomorrow we'll come back on another one, and tomorrow is a big one. Peace out. Opinions on this? Am I being too harsh? I feel like the last few videos I'm being like a bit of a downer on these, but I'll preface again. I like this. I just think Don Krieg isn't great. I just think Don Krieg is like a complete nothing burger. I think he's a complete nothing burger. But give me your opinions. I would like to hear. Is the things you disagree with me on, or the things I failed to talk about here? Let me know. But that Sanji Zeph stuff, the ending, the flashbacks, the presents, I think there's like a nice line throughout that. I think it's very emotional. I think it's very well done, and I think it serves Sanji and lets us get to know him as a character before they completely character assassinate him down the line. But we'll get to that. Peace out. Bye.